In this video help tutorial, we're going to take a little bit more information about the login person and do some finds. And how does that work? Well, basically, you're using information, and this field here is the only one in this screen that can be used in a find. So if you start by going over to Do Action and starting a find, it'll rotate the screen. These pieces of information here are not accessible because it's in a multi-line field and it's not going to search within there. But what I can do here is I can go ahead and type in the first pieces of information I want for the login person. So if I typed in VAU, and I wouldn't even have to put in the whole thing as far as the name is concerned, and I went up here and I said, in the Do Action menu, I say Perform the Find, it's going to find the one record we have in there. You'll also notice that when I click down on any field here, it doesn't make any difference which one it is, I can click this little radio button thing here, or I can click Previous and Next to move between fields in any screen, or this will take you to the top of the screen. If you have your field highlighted like I have here, you can click this. It'll cut the information, it'll copy it, or it'll paste it. Over here you can make it bold, italic, or underlined if you wanted to change the way text within a field looked. So if I click bold, it would make it bold and so forth. You can also click this, and what it does is it gives you an indication of the current records in selection. And what that means is these are records in selection. In this particular case, it's for this one up here, but there's one record because it only has one data point here. This is actually a portal which is in a different screen, which we'll be talking about in a minute. You can move between records by clicking this way to go to the prior record, this one to go to the next one. Say, for example, there were 100 records in here, and I did a find, and I got one record up here. It would show one in the found set, and it would tell me which one of the records in order, which one it was. So it'd be like 5 of 100 or 10 of 100. And then if I wanted to omit a record, like click up here in a field and then say omit that record, it would omit it, omit the record, or I could say show all, or I could say only show me the omitted. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we're doing finds in the next screens. But if you go over that, it's really, really simple how that works. It's nothing magical about it. Up at the top of the screen, I didn't point it out before, but this is the ID number for this particular screen and record. So if this is number 1, the record for that, if you knew what the record number was in a find, you could go ahead and put the number in for that, and it would find that record. So if you're more familiar with what record you're looking for, you can go ahead and put the digit in for that on a search. Now, right now, it's locked. You can't really do anything with it. You can't edit it or anything because it doesn't want you to do that. But let's go ahead and say, in the records that we're looking at here, we have the find, the perform the find. If you get a find and you want to show all the records again, let's back this down so it's a little easier to see. If you back down and say, for example, you want to show all the records, you would click on Show All. Or in the record set for the live field there, if you said First, Next, Prior, it would show you those. And then if you wanted to do the Show Omitted like it showed in the bullet down below, you could do that. You can also export records. In this case, only the live fields, not the portal records, would show. Let's jump over to a portal and I'll show you what I'm talking about. In this particular screen, as you'll see right now, if I click on certain fields, some are live and some are not. And what that means is when I say live is you can edit them. In certain screens, they're not going to be editable. I've had locks so that people can't change records or change record data in those screens. Like, for example, in a list view, it will not allow you in some fields until you go into find mode to show those. So if I clicked over here and I say start a find, they go back to this kind of a listing here. And that way I could drop over here and I could say, now I want to see all the records in there. Since we only have one person's name currently in the records, you're going to see only their name. If you had some additional information like June or exercise or something behind the name, it might be a good idea to put a comma and then that abbreviation and keep it kind of small so it fits within the field. But then you would be able to click on that and insert that for the find. The same thing with the status. You could click on this to go to the status screen, or you can click here and it'll bring up all the statuses for that particular record. In this particular case, it should pop up. Another thing I want to do is I want to show you down here you have like a 0 and a plus. Do not use this record. One adds a record, the other one deletes it. If you want to delete a record or anything like that, you should have a button in there that's supplied within the interface to do those kind of things. So you don't want to just randomly do that. Now, as far as status is concerned, the status, when you click on that, it'll take you over there and you can see the statuses, or it should pop up and give you that. For example, if you click a second time, it'll allow you to paste or paste text only or whatever, so you're pasting something in there. And that's true of most of the fields in here. So for example, if I had something up here at the top and I clicked a second time, it will give me the ability to copy or paste if there is data in there. In this case, since we're in the find mode, it's not going to allow you to do that. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next thing. I want to show you when you start a find and then you say perform the find, it's going to give you the information. If you supply information that it's not accurate or there are no records in here, I'm going to go ahead and say perform find. You'll see what it happens. It says the provided find criteria is not valid. Enter a valid request and for proceeding. Now, in this particular case, you could say modify the find. It'll put you back into the find. But if you decide that you don't want to complete the find, click cancel and it'll turn the record around and show you the data. In this particular case, if I click over here, I don't want you editing this in this screen, so I have not made that a live field for editing. If you want to change something like that, you would click over here and it would take you into the screen. Okay, the last record that we're going to be looking at in the top portion of the app is the blood pressure listing. Now, if you had done a find in the portal, or you do it here for the records that are in the blood pressure list screen for the log records in the portal, what will happen is only those records will show when you come to a list view. So if I had done a list or a view thing in the portal record, I can go back over there and show you that. But if I'd put in there before exercise, or I'd put a certain date, or maybe somebody's name or no name, anything that I put in here as a search criteria, and say that there might be 100 records in here, and there may be 5 or 6 or 10 people actually getting their blood pressure taken, and they might have their own records. Or you may have your own. You might have one for June, July, August, a separate record for each one. They're going to be listed separately when you have them in here as far as records that are searchable. So example, if I wanted to look at Vaughn Clement for July, and these would be July, and I only wanted to see those records. And then again, I could add more to it. I could say I want before meal only, or I want after relaxation, or before exercise. What if I pick one of those, what it's going to do, it's going to show me only those records for that person on, say, the month that I'm looking for or the day, and then it would only show me those records, and then it would give me the summaries at the bottom for the average, for systolic, diastolic, and the pulse rate. And this is another thing I was talking about in the last record. If you're searching and you want to say, for example, find all the ones for after relaxation by my name and that month, only those will show. For example, in this particular case, it's just V. Clement or Vaughn Clement. If I had him for June and May and so forth like that, I could then look at those records for that status and only see those records and the average of the blood pressures for those down here at the bottom of the screen. So I could go back to the main record and show you something here. I'll go back to the blood pressure here, and what I'm going to do is, in this case, I'm going to say 2000, let's say June. Now what's going to happen, watch. Down here I need to go back now that I did that and go back and pick the June record in order to update it. I'm going to say June again, June again, and June again. Okay, now if I go back to the list view, you're going to say that this says June now on it here. So you can see what I'm talking about. If you change the records, now these will only be records for June. If you wanted them for a full year, then this would say 2016 by the name, or something to that effect. It makes a lot more sense if you wanted to go month to month and compare months based on seasonal things. Maybe you're not as active in some months than you are in others, or maybe you are very active in a month and you want to see what the difference is between records. Then you would start your find and then look at the month by the June records and say, for example, I want to look at after relaxation or after exercise, for example. One of the things I want you to keep in mind that when you're doing a find, and say, for example, you don't get the result that you wanted to get, that you may not pick something that's accurate. For example, if I was looking for after exercise and there were no records in here with after exercise, and I did a search for after exercise, then I'm not going to get the result. For example, if I go over and do a find, and I do after exercise, and then I go ahead and, let's just go ahead and put it in there. I'm going to get this kind of a result when I say perform the find. It's going to say modify or no records matching in this particular case. So I'd have to have something that should be in there as far as something that I have in there, like after relaxation. Then if I do the find, there's the record that matches. You can see when I was doing that, a little pop-up it showed 3 records out of the 4 in selection as the records that were still available and so forth. For example, if I go down here, click on this, it says the record that was found was 1, there were 3 omitted, and this is record 1 of that batch. And I could say show all records now, and now all the records come back. If I say show omitted now, and I can do that 2 different ways. I can go back here, and I could say show omitted, and now it'll go to nothing because all of them were sitting there. Now if I want, and you'll notice that everything went blank. To bring them all back so that I can see them all, I go down and show all, and they're all back. This is something you're going to be doing a lot using the finds, and you have to understand the different ways to do the finds. For example, if I put in click in the record that I have data in, and I want to now move between records, I'm selecting this one. I could say go to record, next, and now that record is highlighted. You can see the blue bar, that's slight blue that's here. And the same thing happens when you're in a portal view. So for example, if I went to the portal view and now I'm going to change it and say show the prior record or the first record, you're going to see it just change there and so forth. Without doing a find, I could move through the records. I could say record next, and it moves through those. So just functionally moving through the different screens and doing finds is part of the interface that you need to understand in order to use it. And of course, using notes to modify and update information as far as details. This is only a status, but you can go in here and say, for example, I was doing a bike ride today, and after that I relaxed for a while, and my blood pressure was kind of high, 156. After relaxing, it was still high. Make a note of that because it's noteworthy that it didn't go back down right away. And that could be something to do with something you were eating, or you were doing something else. And that may be something you start to see in a repeat situation. Like every time I did a relaxed situation after exercise, my blood pressure stayed high for 1, 2, 3 hours. And it was higher than normal at 156, which is fairly high. That's not normal. So if I go back and look over here at the records for the blood pressure test, here's the 156 after relaxation. It seemed a little odd that after relaxing I should be so high. There may be other reasons, and you might want to ask your doctor about that. Okay, with all this information that I'm providing in here, be sure that you do check with your doctor and ask questions. There are different reasons why things happen, and you could start seeing trends. And when you provide this kind of information detail to your doctor, it's going to help them, he or she, quite a bit to be able to see what's going on when you're looking at different elements within here. So if you're using this on, say, like an iPhone or an iPad, and you bring it to your doctor, they can sit with you and look, and if it's going to reoccur, that after relaxation 3 out of 4 times I have a higher respiration and it's up, and also higher systolic, then you should know more about that. When we get into looking at websites, there's a lot of information that will help to supply intelligence to you as far as when you're talking to your doctor, based on things that you learn in the website views. You might see things that you might want to ask questions about based on some of the results you're getting. Maybe they're higher than you think they should be, or maybe something like your pulse rate is low all the time. Normally when you're in the low 50s, that asks a question, especially if it's before exercise, what were you doing? And if you look at the portal notes, I chose to do exercise, but just before that I took a nap for 15 minutes or something like that. It just gives a lot more information and help to the doctor. Okay, if you have questions, as usual, you can contact us through our website by clicking down here on support, and it'll take you directly to that site where you can either start a chat or send an email. Thank you.